Ooh.
I know
Could he go that late?
Yeah, I think it's very possible.
Is Downs off the board?
I'll tell you for a fact, I know some teams have it that way. Compare him to Jahmyr Gibbs. The ability to make people miss at full speed, like those guys can just tap into a different gear. If you don't get on the Jadarian Price train, yeah, I'm not feeling great about you having a running back you think can start next year. How do they not take him? They don't have a starting running back.
A day like today is why we love college football.
Let's dive right into it. One of my best friends and a guy that I probably respect more than anybody else in this business, but don't tell him, it's Daniel Jeremiyah joining the program. This is always one of my favorite episodes of the year, DJ. So here we go. Thanks for coming on, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I could have done without the word probably. That would have been a little nicer, but that's okay. You're probably one of my best friends, too. I probably think you're pretty good at what you do. One little word. Just couldn't help yourself. Got to stick that little word in there.
I knew no matter how much praise that I was going to put into the intro, I knew there was something coming in the opposite direction. There's no doubt.
Caveat that you threw in there.
Here we go. Here we go. Well, this is probably going to be a good episode. Here we go. I want to get into this draft. Obviously, you and I are going to be covering it in Pittsburgh. I don't know if it's like super known, but obviously with the NFL Network and the ESPN deal, like you will continue to cover the NFL draft. This is going to be my last one. Like they ain't having me on ESPN. Fox ain't loading me over to ESPN anytime soon. So this is our last run at it in Pittsburgh, which should be really fun. And it's a really fun draft. One of the things that I talk a lot about is Big Ten football. And as you know, over the last few years, Ohio State has been right at the forefront of that, call a ton of these Buckeye games. And I wanted to start right there, DJ, because you are a perfect historian perspective of what we're seeing right now with this Ohio State class that we're about to see this year on the heels of having 14 draft picks a year ago. We might have, 4, 5 of these guys drafted in the first round, 4 of them in the top 10. The historic nature of what we're seeing right now out of this Buckeye class for this draft.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. I mean, the only thing I can compare it to is just the Miami run that they were on in the early 2000s. That was like it was a period of just almost every year we were seeing 4, first round guys and then running that depth all the way through. But it's not only, Joel, that they've had dudes. Like this is another year where they've got guys, and you mentioned the 4 top 10 players, but these guys are having success at the NFL level too. It's not like, this is some overhyped group or a program that's living off their reputation. Like these guys are getting drafted high, and rightfully so. They're playing really well at the next level.
The 4 top 10 picks, if it happens, obviously, just doesn't happen, right? Like you were talking about those Miami teams. Just to give you a sense, like in 2002, Miami, 5 first-round picks, including Ed Reed at 24. That was just before your time with the Ravens. In 2004, Miami had 6 first-round picks. In the first 21, that was the Sean Taylor draft. He was drafted at 5. In 21, Bama had 6 first-round picks, 3 in the top 10. They had Waddle, Surtain, and Devontae Smith. In 2022, Georgia had 5 first-round picks, just off their defense, by the way, 15 total picks. But we're talking about the first time in the modern draft era, second time really in the common draft era since 67 Michigan State that we could see 4 in the top 10. And here's what's interesting about this class for Ohio State. And you mentioned the guys that have had success from Ohio State in the National Football League. One of them is specifically at wide receiver, and it's Carnell Tate. And Carnell Tate wasn't even the best receiver on his team in college and is likely going to be the number 1 wide receiver taken in this draft. And all of us, me included, and I'm sure you as well, believe that because he's from that lineage and he showed what he did at the college level, he's likely to have a lot of success and be in the top 10 in this draft.
Yeah, when you look at it, you pull up all those first rounders, the wide receiver position. Really, Marvin is the only one who hasn't lived up to the reputation, and he's been okay. He just hasn't lived up to the billing of where he was picked. Those other guys have all met or exceeded expectation and done it relatively early in their career.
I wonder to myself about the Cardinals quarterback situation. And because, like, for instance, and I think you and I talked about this, when when Jackson Smith and Jigba went to Seattle, I was like, dang, like that's not great because they're not built to use him.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden they get Darnold and, they change some things up offensively and he has a monster year. And he was one of the best wide receivers in the league. I wonder to myself, I know that's a little bit of a knock maybe on Kyler, but I wonder to myself, like what Marvin could do if he stays healthy and gets a better quarterback and what he could do in the league.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would just counter that with Michael Wilson, like the last half of the year last
Mhm.
year for the Cardinals was really good,
Sure.
and played better
And Trey
than
McBride has
yeah.
been really good
So they've
too.
had some guys that have put up numbers and done some things, but sometimes it can just be the system that came in there. That system, it had DK Metcalf in Seattle was kind of the guy. Well, DK goes out, new system comes in, and to your point, JSN explodes. So I'm still holding out hope there. And again, I don't think he's in bust category. He just hasn't, for the hype that was out there and what he was going to be. And I think also the fact that he went to Arizona as such a high pick, and you've got Larry Fitzgerald and what he did. Obviously, different quarterbacks, different offense, but that was kind of the standard. So I think if you're looking at it from their standpoint, going, okay, this ballyhooed dude comes in here, and it hasn't been exactly what we thought. When you go through the rest of those guys, it's impressive, man.
Yeah. Okay. How about some of these other Buckeyes? Let's go with two guys at positions that are going to be undervalued. I think safety and off the ball linebacker. We've got Caleb Downs and we've got Sonny Styles, and these two guys are two of my favorite guys in the entire draft. And now you're going to wrestle with that question about, well, do you take a safety, in the top 6 or 7? Do you take an off the ball linebacker that high? How high is too high for these players? They're not only great on the field, but they're great off the field. Talk to me about this wrestle that these, NFL organizations are going to have with these positions, off the ball linebacker and safety with Downs and Sonny Styles, and where you ultimately think their value ends up.
Yeah, I mean, I've got him way up there. I mean, Sonny Styles is my third player, so I'm a huge fan of his. I have Downs at 8 or 9. I've gone back and forth. Him and Mansour Delane. I wake up in the morning and just see which one I'm going to pick out of the hat. I just kind of go back and forth with those two guys throughout the process. But to me, it's about what is your plan for him and how can he impact your team. Like I'll give you an example. Sonny Styles. If you are Saleh and you've seen and coached Fred Warner and know what Fred Warner can do in that scheme and how impactful he can be with what he does, you should have no problem taking him with the 4th overall pick. If you're the New York Giants and you're looking at Sonny Styles and you're going, okay, well, the future of this division, I know they didn't have the year they wanted to last year because he got hurt, but the future of that division is Jaden Daniels. So how do you defeat Jaden Daniels? Well, I like to have guys at the second level that can get to him on the perimeter when he decides to go, and then also have the length and range that when they want to try and RPO us and throw us in the middle of the field, we can clog all that with all of our size, length, and athleticism. Like he is the perfect player to try and defend someone like that. And, obviously Hurts can move around, Dak can move around. I think having a player at that level that can do all that stuff and handle the communication on top of it, I can make a very strong argument for those guys in those places. And then when you get to Downs, look, I tell everybody it's not a lock. He's going to go in the top 10. We live in a world where Derwin James somehow didn't go in the top 10, where Kyle Hamilton didn't go in the top 10, and we just saw Eamon Wari go in the second round. So, in terms of how high he goes, it's a little more difficult to project. But when I'm looking at specific teams and I'm looking at Cincinnati and I'm looking at where they are as a team and I'm thinking, okay, this is the worst rush defense in the NFL. And then you say, well, then why the heck are they taking a safety? Because I can ask the guy who called all of his games. I think he can impact the run defense as much as he can impact what he does in the passing game. Like I think he's that
I would
impactful.
actually say maybe more.
Yeah,
maybe more because his here's how I would put it. His margin as compared to another safety like who are the other guys like Thieneman, McNeil Warren out of Toledo. Like his margin and pass coverage over those guys or against those guys versus those guys, I think is kind of like, okay, I like his instincts a bit more. But then you put their cut-ups against one another, and then even other safeties in the league in terms of instincts against the run, playing low, playing in that little joker position that they had him in a lot, where they would put the wide linebackers pretty wide and they'd set him at 8 or 9 and just kind of let him go. And he plays like another linebacker, even at his size, which is really crazy. So the margin that he has above those players when it comes to run fits and instinct in the run game, I think, grows, at least in my estimation. And then the other part that I would just say about Downs, and this is why, like, I mocked them to Dallas, just because Dallas has 2 picks. They've got a chance to get 2 really good secondary players, in particular if Downs fell to them, because they could get a corner later, in particular with some of the things that these top corners are dealing with from an injury perspective, like McCoy from Tennessee, so on. But DJ, the thing that I think is really, really interesting about Downs is that in the middle of all of this draft run that Ohio State has been on, and in particular on the defensive side, they built the defense for Downs. Schematically, it was all about Caleb Downs. In particular, after the loss to Oregon in their championship year, they totally rebuilt the structure just for him to be more impactful, so that he would be at or near the ball more often than he was prior to that game. So that's something that I think is fascinating. That's what they did in that year. That's what Matt Patricia continued to try to do this last year there in Columbus. All right, let me
Can I ask you one question though, real quick?
Go
Because
ahead.
you mentioned another name. It's not a Buckeye, so are we allowed to do that?
Okay. Trust me. We're
okay. You mentioned one. So I'm gonna rely on you for some info here. So Dillon Thieneman.
Yep.
When you did, how many Oregon games did you do?
Only 2 the last couple of years.
Okay. Did you get a chance to ever talk to Tosh about Thieneman?
Yes, and Dan.
Okay.
Talked to both of them. They loved Dillon Thieneman, and I'm one of my college teammates was Ryan Walters, who Thieneman played under at Purdue. So like I've talked to him at length about Thieneman. How do I want to put this? I don't want to throw those guys under the bus. They loved him, raved about him.
Yeah.
So they never said anything poor about Thieneman. Went out and got him in the transfer portal, but they wanted him to fulfill a role that they saw in the Rose Bowl being played against them when Downs and Ohio State beat them up really bad in that Rose Bowl. And they brought Thieneman in and kind of played him like Ohio State plays Caleb Downs, which is way different than what Purdue did.
He was a center fielder at Purdue.
Correct. Because Ryan Walters, when he was at Purdue, just runs cover 1 with a really deep free safety. And he was so good in that freedom area where he was just a post safety and he could roam around the field. I felt like Thieneman, as good as he was last year for Oregon, and he was good, he's better as a post safety, which is what he played at Purdue. So that would be my like insights or instincts on Thieneman.
So here's why I was going there. Because I've had people tell me that when the scouts went through there this year, and I'm with you, by the way, just to backtrack a second. I like him better as a post. I like his Purdue tape better than I even like the Oregon tape. And
his Oregon tape's not bad.
No, it's fine. But I just like he's more impactful.
Really
he's more impactful to me in the middle of the field. But guys that went through there that talk with Tosh, when they talk to Tosh raves about this dude. Absolutely loves him. Talks about he's one of the smartest players, one of the best players he's ever coached. So this is why I wanted to get confirmation on that, just from whatever conversations you may have had with him. Because for 100%, this reason,
which is why they thought they could do what Ohio State did with Downs, is because that's in order to play that position, you have to be so smart. So they brought him in. They're like, man, this guy is off the charts.
Yeah.
We can do that. And they actually mimicked, if you watch it, they mimicked the scheme that Ohio State ran to beat them up. And they come out last year and that's what they were running. So
here's why I asked you that though. So here's this is how, like, when we're getting ready for the draft, these are the fun things that I've been doing. So I hear that. I got that piece of information. Okay. Cowboys, you just mentioned, as a Downs team. The Cowboys have a glaring need in the secondary and its safety position. Tosh Lupoy, who we've just established loves Thieneman, along his journey, where was he at? He was at Alabama in 20. He was there from 2014 all the way to 2018.
Yeah, he was there for a while.
He was a co-DC in 2017. You know who who was coaching in that secondary? It was Derek Ainsley. You know who coaches DBs for the Dallas Cowboys right now?
Oh, I haven't put this
Derek
together.
Ainsley.
Oh my!
That's why I've been saying I think Thieneman could be the 12th pick in the draft.
That's so good.
And also
You're better at this than anybody is putting those pieces together.
And then Parker, the new DC, came from the Eagles, and look what they did in that one draft when we were there. They get Quinyon Mitchell to come around and get Cooper DeJean. So you're looking at both those guys, so athletic. They're both versatile pieces. You could do a lot of different things with them. So this would be more of trying to find his Cooper DeJean, I think, in terms of just somebody you could kind of move around, do different things with. Not going to be that center fielder, but they can also drop him down and do different things with them there.
So wait, I'm going to sit on this for a second because it's the Cowboys and this pick is going to be scrutinized. I mean, it's one of the most talked about picks of any first round.
They got two.
And they got two, and they like you said, they've got a glaring need in that secondary. In your scenario where you're seeing like a Thieneman tie or like putting those pieces together, is Downs off the board? Because personally, I don't see a world where Thieneman is drafted ahead of Caleb Downs.
I would say, I'll tell you for a fact, I know some teams have it that way. I don't.
Really?
I'm telling you, some teams have it that way.
Wow.
So, and I'm not saying they do. And I would, in that scenario, I would have them taking Downs. But if Downs goes 10, Downs goes 11, I mean, any of those teams, 10, 11, 12 could all be in that. And look at Kansas City's picking 9. They've got issues in the secondary. So I think that's the window. I think that 9 to 12. And I wouldn't be shocked if both those guys are in that 9 to 12 range when it's all said and done.
And by the way, I'm a big fan of McNeil Warren as well.
I have McNeil Warren over Thieneman by one spot. So
he's better. I think Thieneman has better overall instincts.
Yeah.
But at the football, McNeil Warren has like this
9 forced fumbles.
This great ability, to just get the football. And that's something that is really hard to teach.
I had a conversation with an executive the other day. And he was talking about missed tackle percentage. And so he was saying that's why he had Thieneman over McNeil Warren. He's been a little bit better tackler. And so he told me that I think the percentage, it might have been like the difference between like 13 or like 14 and 11 or something like that. I don't have numbers off the top of my head. So I'm like, okay, well then I just pulled it up because you can go through and sort it, right? So I go and pull those up. One of the missed tackles is down in the box. They're pushed to crack with the receiver. He takes on the receiver, takes on the crack block, and then the running back's coming to his right. So then he tries to redirect and reaches out and gets him with one arm and can't get him on the ground. That's a missed tackle. Okay. So anyways, we're talking about a difference of like 2 to 3 missed tackles over the course of the entire season to make the difference in these percentages. And I said, but does the fact that this guy's forced 9 forced fumbles in his career, does that make up for the 1 or 2 different missed tackles? Because for me, I'd rather have the football personally.
I feel like I'm Edward R. Rooney, Dean of Suit, 9 times, 9 gosh, yes.
Anyway.
Listen, I hear you. But remember, a lot of these GMs, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but a lot of these decision makers, it's not, how do I put this? It's like a prosecutor. They have to be backed up by evidence. So they'll make up their mind based on what they can tangibly prove versus just like say, no, he's better or whatnot. But I'm not saying that you have to have McNeil Warren over Thieneman. I think Thieneman.
I mean, they're one spot away on my list. I think I have one at 16 and one at 17.
Good.
So
they're both really good. Here's what I want to do next. We're gonna do NFL comps. You're so much better at this than I am. My memory just evaporates. Maybe I got hit in the head more. Maybe, I don't know.
That's fair.
But I mean,
I got hit in the head quite. I mean, I had like 4 or 5. I mean, I had like some legit concussion credibility over here. I played on concrete for crying out loud back in the days.
That's good cred. That is good cred. I'm double digits, but that's no one's surprised about that.
How many of those are fastballs and how many of those are football hits though? Let's be straight up. Did you ever get one in baseball?
No, I didn't get hit in
the head. You just don't remember.
I was hungover a lot. Why have hence I'm dry now, everyone. I've made a good decision there. All right, DJ, NFL comps. Who comes to mind when you're evaluating this player?
Yes,
you ready?
Yes, sir.
Jeremiyah Love.
Yeah, to me, body type wise, there's not a clean one. Stylistically, I would compare him to Jahmyr Gibbs. A little
Mm.
different body type, but the ability to make people miss at full speed, the pass game value, and just a different gear. Like those guys can just tap into a different gear. So I'll go with Gibbs.
Do you love him as much as I love him? Because I think he's probably, if you're not, I have Mendoza as my number one player,
So
but
do
like
I.
I think Love is probably the best football player in the draft. He and Arvell Reese.
There's two ways of looking at it. I think if you're saying we're drafting for an NFL team, obviously the quarterback position factors in. So I have Mendoza one. But if we were to rally the 40, I think I counted 46 people you've got working on this show, and we were to go to the park and pick teams and just go play at the park, Jeremiyah Love would be the first pick.
Of course he would. Of course he
Kiara's
would.
Kiara's second, maybe third, but she's up there.
Kiara
Catherine,
kills
I'm
it
high
on
on
social.
Catherine. I'm high on
No,
Catherine.
Catherine's a captain, so
Yeah.
like she's
Yeah.
picking, so she's the one picking Jeremiyah Love. Okay, so I love Gibbs, and I also one of the things that I thought he did a great job of this year, and I talked with another Todd McShay and I were talking about
Mhm.
this. He got much better in pass protection
Yeah.
this year versus the previous years, and I said in that episode it reminded me a lot of Travion Henderson in that regard, who all of a sudden was the best pass protector in the draft, and you can see it paid off for him early in his NFL career. Okay, NFL comps. Who comes to mind? We are evaluating Carnell Tate.
Yeah, Carnell Tate. I'm gonna pull it up because I wrote a bunch of these down when I was doing this stuff for the baseball cards when these guys get picked. Carnell Tate. Oh, that's the wrong draft, so that's not going to help you. I've done this all weekend. I know his off
The
top of my
comp
head.
deal?
Yeah, I know his off the top of my head because to me I compared him to Olave a little bit.
Yeah.
Just the vertical stuff. I know Olave's time speed's a little better. I think Tate's a little stronger. But in terms of all those Ohio State guys that have rolled through, that was the one I thought he was most similar to.
It's fluidity down the field
Yeah.
that he has, and he's very smooth in that area. He was great in contested catches, and I think it's a trait that's hard to find, a guy that doesn't panic down the field, and he certainly didn't. Was terrific on the opposite side and of Jeremiah Smith, who I think is probably the top pick in the draft a year from now, but we'll talk about
At
that
least the best
next year.
player. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. He's kind of next year's Jeremiyah Love in that regard. But I'm a huge fan of Carnell Tate. Overcame a ton in his life. Mom tragically
Tell me
was
about
taken
that.
from him.
Tell me about, because I've just heard that this kid
Yeah.
is so wired the right way. So I'd love to
He
hear
very
more
much
about
is.
that.
So tragically, his mom was taken in a shooting right when he basically got to campus as a true freshman, and he was from Chicago, and so he has to deal with that as a true freshman and losing his mom in a really tragic fashion. And everybody that I talked to in that building just said this guy was rock solid from day one, used it as motivation, knew his purpose, and matured every single day and got better every single day and used it as fuel and not as a crutch or an excuse. And this is something that I noticed when I would talk with him, and then I saw him mature over the years. And here's the other part that I really, really love about Carnell Tate, and you have to have a very unique type of guy to do this, because most really talented players that go into college football want to be the best player on their team, or at least the best player in their room.
Mhm.
And Tate knew that he was probably never going to be that, and yet still wanted to be there and compete because of the greatness of the room. Does that make sense?
100%.
Like, he wanted the lineage and the challenge of being in that room specifically. And I think it speaks to his competitive will and one of the reasons why he's so good down the field. And again, he could have just sat there and said, Jeremiah Smith is better than me and I'm the number 2 and this or that. But man, he was greedy for catches in a good way, in a very good way, and went out there and produced. So that would be my 2 cents on Tate.
I'm also a fan of guys who don't drop the football.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody about a player the other day. I was talking with the GM. It was actually last night. He was going on raving about a player. He's like, run after catch, run after catch. I'm like, yeah, you're missing the catch part of that. Doesn't matter how well you run if you don't catch it. We had a good laugh about it anyways.
I think I know exactly who he was talking about. All right, NFL comps. Who comes to mind when you're evaluating Omar Cooper?
Yeah, Omar Cooper he's just a mini Debo. He's not as heavy as Debo, but there's the run after catch stuff reminds me so much of Debo when he was coming out. Just once he has the ball in his hands, like there's guys that just hate to be tackled. He won't go down. And then he's able to, kind of elevate, play above the rim. You saw that obviously the big one against Penn State. But he's just an athlete and just kind of he got a little dog to him. So that's who he reminded me of. Debo wasn't the most polished route runner when he was coming out. I think he's a little more advanced than that. I still think there's room for him to grow and develop there. But guys, just get the ball in his hands, and that's when the fun starts.
I think there's a misconception that everybody that was really good at Indiana was a transfer, and that's not the case with Omar Cooper. Omar Cooper was an Indiana guy. He committed to Tom Allen and came in and stayed there when, the JMU crew arrives with Kurt Signetti and bought in and developed and became just an outstanding player for them in that passing game. I think his feel for space is incredible. They ran a lot of RPOs. No one threw more RPOs in last season than Fernando Mendoza, but part of that was because of guys like Cooper and Surratt on the outside, and Cooper was outstanding. I'm a huge fan of him, and certainly I'll always remember that play because I was in the booth with Gus. We both lost our minds. I think we almost lost Gus that day.
I know. That's an all-time call. It's an all-time call.
Oh, all right. NFL comps. Who comes to mind when you're evaluating Jordan Tyson?
Yeah, Jordan Tyson to me reminded me coming out of college of Jerry Jeudy. Like Jerry Jeudy had a freeness to him and like a creativity at the line of scrimmage, and he was just so like limber and loose and fluid and smooth. That to me is what he reminded me of. I think people forget. I know Jerry Jeudy's had some high moments in the NFL. It hasn't been this consistently great ride. But when all those guys were in that class, remember that receiver class was stacked. He was viewed right up there, near the top of that list coming out of college. So that's who he reminds me of. And I do want to clarify one thing that's out there because, people have asked me about, how physical he is, how tough is he, and all those things. And I've said, look, I wish he would be stronger to the ball to finish in traffic, like combat catches. There's times where I don't think he's quite as strong there as he needs to be. And so, and that kind of is like, gets wrapped up into strength and it's competitive in terms of like fighting for the ball. But then as it works nowadays, people are like, oh, so you're saying because he tore his knee that he's not tough. And I'm like, this is not, they're two separate conversations there.
Totally separate. You can be concerned about the injury history.
Yes, there's been injuries every year, and it's it's the collarbone, it's the hamstrings. But that to me is the durability thing is a real thing. But when I'm talking about the toughness and competitiveness, I'm not talking about overcoming injuries. I'm just talking about finishing on the ball in traffic. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there's a different. Listen, Jordan Tyson's phenomenal. I love everything that you just talked about. I think my biggest concern is the injury history. Like when healthy, this guy is an elite player.
No question.
An elite player. But there is also a difference the way that he finishes catches between the hash marks versus a Mekhi Lemon, who is just like tough as
fearless.
Nails.
Attacks the
totally
ball.
Fearless. Doesn't matter who's around, what defender, linebacker, safety, doesn't matter. He's going to attack the football, and that's a little bit of a difference. There's no doubt. Last comp, let's go tight end, Kenyon Sadiq. NFL comp, who do you think of when you see Kenyon Sadiq?
Yeah, there's two guys. So I'll go Vernon Davis being the most obvious one I think that's out there, just who's so twitchy and explosive and dynamic. I don't think you're talking about somebody who's going to be a real feel option rowdy, tight end. I think that you think about Kelsey and how he plays the game. That's not going to be him. It's going to be more about just, speed and running away from guys and the strength to break tackles. Needs to be more consistent catching the ball. Had too many drops this last year, but I loved his competitiveness. And, Vernon Davis, when he wanted to, he could drive guys off the field as a blocker. That's the first one. The other one people won't remember, but he does remind me when I watched Dustin Keller when he was coming out of Purdue when I was a young scout. Yeah, he was same kind of compact dude who could really roll.
Speaking of like those conversations, and I know you really value your relationships and the trust that you've built around the league and everything. Well, similarly, that's how I feel about coaches, and in particular coordinators and head coaches. And so I rely on What I would feel like is not just the stock podium answer. So when I'm talking with a coach before a game, I rely on the fact that I'm going to get different information than he's just going to give the press
Yeah.
conference about a player. And so work hard with relationships. Well, I got that with Oregon. We talked about the Thieneman stuff already, but also Kenyon Sadiq. Dan Lanning says, Joel, everyone's going to rave about the way he catches the ball, and it's great. It's phenomenal, and he's going to get drafted because of it. Watch a cut up of the way he blocks.
Yeah.
Because he was like, he's got dog in him. He wants to block. He wants to be good at it. So he can flex and beat you, or he can be in line and he can help the run game. And so I went back and I did it. And we did a whole package. And we did the Oregon Northwestern game, just watching him block because of that conversation that I had with Dan Lanning.
I felt bad for Montana State, by the way. That was like, because some games had just started trickling in early. So that was one of the first ones I watched. And I was like, he was not nice. He wasn't playing well with those guys. He was not nice in the run game. He was finishing dudes. Holy cow. Tough one for the Bobcats that day.
That was not the matchup for them that day.
What's up, Klatt Show fans? If you're looking for a way to get out of the house or for a gift for your friends and family, I have your solution, and it's SeatGeek. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. Now, there are more than 70,000 events listed, like concerts, festivals, sports, and much more. Now, I know college football is several months away, but you can still score tickets to all of your favorite sporting events like Major League Baseball, NBA. You can even get tickets to the World Cup on SeatGeek. You guys know that I love using SeatGeek for tickets to games with my family because I know that SeatGeek has my back. See, each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. Green means good. Red means obviously keep looking. Every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, and of course, I have a code for you guys. You can use code CLAT10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code CLAT10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later on. Shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's show.
Okay, let's play another game here. We're just got the game show theme. Ceiling floor. There's a couple of guys that I think are fascinating. One, because of whether it's, position. It could be production over potential. It could be off-field news, anything like that. So you've got kind of this idea of where's their ceiling, where's their floor in the draft. So not their evaluation, but kind of like team number in the draft. What's the point that they wouldn't get past in the first round? Let's start with Rueben Bain. And before you start, obviously it got floated out there this weekend about his 2024 horrible incident. There was a car accident. Someone lost their life. He was in the middle of that. Listen, NFL teams have known about this. DJ, you've known about this. Those of us around the sport have known about this for a long time. So within draft circles, this is not going to be a surprise and likely will not affect the evaluation nor the value of Rueben Bain. But having said that, it's kind of on the forefront of the public's mind, so I had to say that before I talk about Rueben Bain. What do you think is a ceiling and floor for the pass rusher for Miami?
For me, I think the ceiling would be 7 with Washington. I don't think it's Tennessee. I don't think it's the Giants or Cleveland. So I think Washington would be the first team. And then I would say the floor, I can't see the Ravens passing on him at 14. A team that can't rush the quarterback and a team who values strength and edge setting. He's going to be able to do that. Plus, he could kick inside. We don't know Matabike's what his situation is with the health that he's had. So he's somebody to give you some inside pass rush as well.
And what I loved about Rueben is his effort against the run. Like, this guy is not a pass rush specialist. Like, he plays his absolute tail off on every snap. And I loved that. All right, we've already talked about downs a little bit, but we didn't get into a ceiling floor. I know we mentioned Cowboys at 12. I have him at 12. What do you think is a ceiling for him? Because let me throw this out.
Yeah.
I had a lot of conversations. So my man Steve and I do everything together. Steve Owens, and
Steve was going to be a high pick at the park, by the way. I didn't mean to leave him out.
100%. Well, he's drafting the other team. You and I are not making picks, by the way. Steve and Catherine are making
There we
picks.
go.
Okay, so Steve brought up, and I was like, gosh, he's so perfect for him. He was just like, wouldn't John Harbaugh love Caleb Downs? And I'm like, yes, that's perfect. A versatile safety for him. Probably wants him to be a little bit bigger. But you tell me, from what you're hearing, what do you think is a ceiling floor for Caleb Downs?
Yeah, I don't think the Giants are going to do that, but I would still, there's enough of a possibility that I would keep it alive. So I would say that would be the ceiling for him, would be number 5. And then, I don't like, going lower on this, but man, I'll probably, I'll stick with Dallas as the floor, but I'm just telling you for the reasons I've been shocked with some safeties in the past that I've had huge grades on and had them all the way up there and watched them slip and slide. So
sure,
I don't know where I would put that at, but that would be, I guess I would say Minnesota would be the worst case scenario, all hell broke loose spot.
There's definitely secondary need throughout the league, so it's like someone's going to take him. I would suspect. Like there's no red flags. Play is great. Character is great. Off the field is great. There's no red flags with this guy.
And like I said, I like him. He's all the way up there for me. I would say this, and I'm going to be a little bit biased on this because I've called every single game he's played in the NFL. But when you watch Derwin James every week and you see what he does at 6'3.5", 220 pounds, and how he runs, like I like Downs, but he is not Derwin James. Like he's
not that big.
That's how I would say that. And Derwin James was the 17th pick.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm just like, hey, we'll see how it goes. We agree. We're singing the same song here about him as a player, but the league has done this before. So we have to wait and see where he goes.
How about the other Notre Dame running back, Jadarian Price? Because he's going to be the second running back taken. Like this guy is really good and was the backup, to Jeremiyah Love, who was outstanding and the Doak Walker Award winner and a Heisman finalist. And Marcus Freeman has been upping the talent level. This is something that I've talked a lot about when I, just get into the college-oriented stuff on my podcast about when Brian left Notre Dame, he thought that there was a ceiling, but the ceiling was actually him. And Marcus has raised the ceiling from a talent perspective. And I think Love and Price are evidence of that, even though they were kind of like Kelly-esque in terms of recruits. Marcus Freeman has elevated the talent level at Notre Dame, and these guys are part of that. And Jadarian Price is going to be probably the second running back taken.
Yeah, and much like your compliments to me at the start of the show, I think you could eliminate probably there and just say he is going to be the second running back taken. And it's to me, if you don't get on that train, if you don't get on the Jadarian Price train, I'm not feeling great about you having a running back you think could start next year. I think this is a 2 starting running back draft. Now, we always will get some guys who will surprise us and be solid players, but to me, it is not as a weakness in this draft. So I'm looking at him. I will put the ceiling. I'll go Seattle pick 32. And then the floor, I'll go Seattle 32. How do they not take him? They don't have a starting running back.
I was just going to say, I was like, Love won't be there.
No.
And they're picking at a point in the draft where he's going to be right value-wise. Yeah. He's a starter.
Yeah, you're going to have to buy some time because Charbonnet's coming off of injury.
Correct. Charbonnet's not even fully healthy. And, he's fantastic. Yeah. And they have to replenish that position with Walker walking out the door and going to Kansas City.
By the way, who is it that clips this stuff? Is it Kiara that's doing that?
Kiara does that.
Don't post it until it happens. If he gets picked, make us look really, really smart. Then you send this video out.
Kiara, next Thursday.
Yeah. Wait on this thing.
Wait
on that clip. Don't send that. We look really dumb when we say that and they just pass him, So
that's right.
But if they take him, send.
You keep saying we. You don't have to throw we in there. You.
No, I'm trying to bring you along, man.
I appreciate that. All right.
Probably,
Ceiling floor.
probably one of the best guys to do this. That's an all-timer, man. What an introduction. What a jerk.
Oh,
I mean, that's what they
that's
say.
now,
I
by
mean,
the way, now,
probably. I don't know.
now that's my favorite intro I've ever done.
Well done, man. I love it.
Not even a probably. That is my favorite intro I've ever done right there. How about David Bailey?
Oh, who does he remind me of? That's a good question. Did I put a comp for David Bailey? Let me see this.
What do you think? Just ceiling floor?
Oh, sorry, I was flipping games on you.
I know I've been
David Bailey, 2 is the ceiling, and I like the chances of him going 2, and I think 4 is the floor.
So this is what's fascinating to me, and let's stop right there, because this was going to be kind of my last question, was just scuttlebutt, what are you hearing as we get closer? But I think that the first thing is this idea of Arvell Reese, David Bailey, maybe Sonny Styles. What do the Jets do at 2? Because that's really where the draft starts. You and I and everybody else probably believes Fernando Mendoza is going to the Raiders, and then it's like, okay, what are the New York Jets going to do? And who are they drafting? And there's some really good players up there. They're all defenders. Where are they going?
Yeah, first of all, there's no wrong answer. If you told me that any of those 3 guys, I think those are the 3 guys it comes down to. It's Bailey and Reese. I think that's probably the main decision. But I think Sonny Styles is such a freak show that you need to entertain it. You at least got to put him in the conversation and have it. So,
by the way, he's also an incredible leader.
Yes, you put the dot on him, and not only are you getting the communication and the intelligence on the field, but you're getting all the leadership and all that stuff off the field. So he belongs in that conversation. But I had gone early. I started off with Bailey in the process. And then I'd gone, okay, well, the Jets, they've got 3 first-rounders next year. It feels like this team that they're pointing towards 27. So the higher upside player is Reese. Like, he's got more physically in his body than Bailey does.
He's more versatile. He's more of a hybrid player than Bailey is the best pure pass rusher in the draft. Arvell Reese might turn into Micah Parsons.
Yeah, there's the ceiling there is unquestionably, you can make a strong case it's higher. So I had been thinking, okay, well, they're pointing towards 27, then just take the guy with the upside. And then the more I look at it, and the more talking to folks around the league who have, connections inside that building, it felt like there was more of a Bailey, bird in the hand pick. This is a team last year. Where were they at? They were 31st in sacks. Now, they brought in some guys in free agency, but nobody to the caliber of David Bailey in terms of the polish as a pass rusher. So you just want to get a sure thing. And when you have someone like Reese who can do a lot of different things, that's great. But if you just want to go hunt the quarterback right now, I think Bailey is further along, and I think is a safer player just from that standpoint. I know exactly what he does. I've seen him do it, and I'm just going to ask him to do the same here.
Yeah, if you're asking me who has a lower floor as a prospect, Bailey or Reese, I would say Reese.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 1-year starter, and you don't exactly know, like, could he just be an off-the-ball linebacker? No, I'm not sure. Could he just be a pass rusher? No, I'm not sure. He's really good at both. Could be great.
Mm-hmm.
Could be great as a hybrid style defender, but his floor, there's a little bit more risk. Whereas the upside is obviously you get an insanely impactful defender on the field in the likes of Micah Parsons. That's my comp when I kept talking to him. That's what Matt Patricia and I would talk about, is like, this guy, he can do everything. He can rush on the edge. He can rush on the interior. By the way, not to go back and forth between Reese and Styles. Styles is one of the best blitzers from the linebacker position.
Especially the year before. No.
Oh, so anyways,
by the way,
this a fascinating question.
Were you with us? You were with us, right, when we were in Vegas for that draft?
Yeah.
So remember, that was Hutchinson and Trayvon Walker.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, okay, it's they're slightly different players, but it's the exact same conversation. Hutchinson was a proven pass rusher, polished, knew how to rush. Walker had more physical gifts inside of his body. And we went back, how are they going to do it? Well, obviously Walker goes first, Hutch goes next. And the other thing I would say is, and because Walker was such an athletic freak, it was almost like people forget Hutchinson was a really good athlete too. He just wasn't at that freak show level athlete. Just as David Bailey's not some slug. The guy ran 4.5 flat. Like, he's super twitchy and explosive too. He's just not Reese. Now we look back on it. both Hutchinson and Walker have both been paid. They've both played at a high level. Like that, it worked out great for both those guys, and I hope it does for
Sure.
these two.
Yeah, that's you and I talk about this all the time. In this process, this is the number one thing I cannot stand about talking about the draft is that if you rate a player higher than another
Yeah.
or talk about something, then everyone's like, "Oh, you hate that player." No, no,
Uh-huh.
no, no, no,
Yeah.
no. They're both great players.
Mhm.
I don't think there's a wrong decision that the Jets can make, which is a great situation for the Jets to be in.
Yeah.
The other pick that I find, well, there's two other ones that I want to talk to specifically about. For Tennessee, like, gosh, does Love get past Tennessee?
I've been beating that drum. It's kind of a complicated discussion because I have stated for years, and because we've had these conversations, like I'm a firm believer in not wanting to waste any of your running backs' carries. You need to have the pieces in place, and that's one of the last things you want to drop in there because the shelf life is short, and you want all of those years, all of those carries to be meaningful. It doesn't
Right.
do you a lot of good if by the time your team is good enough, this guy's got 2 years left, or you got to decide where you're going to pay him. You're hoping he's going to be able to survive health wise going off into the future. It's ideal if you have a team that's ready to go. We just saw that last year with Genty. Genty went to a team that wasn't equipped. So those are my rules. I've stated them. I've lived by that mantra. However, this is a unique situation. I wish you could get in a DeLorean, go back to the beginning of free agency and be more aggressive in terms of trading for some weapons, upgrading the offensive line. In Tennessee, they didn't, to my satisfaction, those needs weren't met. Now I know Wan'Dale Robinson's a nice player.
Yeah, mine either.
But
you don't have to be on an island on that one.
Knowing where they were in this draft and knowing who was there, I would have loved if they would have built this thing up and said, okay, apologies to the defense. We're going to suck over there for another year, but we're going to use our resources. We're going to build up this offensive line, get some more weapons for Ward, who you took number one overall. Now we're going to take Love in there. And guess what? Now we're an exciting offense. We're a watchable product. We're going into a new stadium next year, not this year, but the following year. I've got Love's photo right next up to Cam Ward on the side of the stadium. We've got some juice and energy in Nashville. Like, I'm all for that. Now, I wish they would have set the table, which they didn't. So I'm going to break my own rule here and say, okay, the first year might not look great with Jeremiyah Love in Tennessee, but man, okay, I'm giving you a year. This next offseason, you got to fix it, man. You got to fix the offensive line. You got to get some more help. But then I'll get those 4 years of that rookie deal, not the full 5. But that's why I've been okay with him going 4.
You could make an argument. Well, I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this one. You follow it a lot more closely than I do. You could make an argument. The Raiders are on that path.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like
they're trying to. They're fixing that.
They're fixing everything around Genty.
Yeah,
to where maybe it's a lot better. Maybe Bowers is more healthy. Maybe you got a better quarterback. You got all.
Colt Miller gets back. You sign Linderbaum.
That's right.
Like they're
right. Linderbaum is a huge one.
Yeah,
right. Linderbaum was a great signing for them, in particular with what they have. So, yeah, I mean, but your point is really well taken because you waste a year of carries.
Yeah.
On a running back just to build. It's like that. You know what that reminds me of? What Texas did with Bijan Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
When he was at Texas, they were bad and he was running behind a bad offensive line and he kind of carried them to the point where they were a lot better and then he left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those timelines didn't marry up properly.
No, I wanted to see Bijan on one of the really good Texas teams.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to see. So to your point about Love in Tennessee. And then the last pick I want to talk about is the idea of Kansas City drafting this early.
Yeah.
And everyone would love from the aesthetics of it to say like, hey, go get Patrick Mahomes, somebody. But they did that with Kenneth Walker and they have this enormous need in the secondary.
Yeah.
And they're not going to pass on a secondary player, are they?
Jeremiyah Love's there. I think all bets are off.
Ooh.
I know
could he go that late?
Yeah, I think it's very possible. I could see
Wait, even with the Walker?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Walker was him and Charbonnet. That was a tag team group there in Seattle. So
you've got my head spinning right
here's
now.
My
this
thought.
Is probably the best information you've given today.
So, well, probably was. So look, obviously you like to have more than one back. And it's like, oh, this is electric. Well, I can use him in so many different ways. I've got Mahomes coming off of injury, so we're going to ease him back in. We brought Eric Bieniemy back to be the coordinator. We want to get this run game going. Now I've got two guys, and they're going to complement each other very well. We can really, really get the run game going. Plus, both these guys can catch the ball, and Love is like a legit slot receiver if you wanted to put him out there. He can go out there, and you can make a case he might be the best slot, probably the best slot receiver in this draft to keep the theme alive. So to me, I just think it would be, and then think about the creativity, the screen games, the fun coming back to the Kansas City offense. And like the biggest point of all is just the Mahomes thing. Like Mahomes is coming off that injury. Like let's take the load off of him a little bit, and you can do that.
And I think people forget because he was there and he's so great. But when Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator, they ran the ball decently.
I know. That's who he is. That's what he is.
That's who Eric is. 100%. That's who he is. And that's what allowed.
The other thing, Joel, is that they, and unfortunately for Spags and Dave Merritt's our secondary coach, you're going to get punished a little bit for how darn good you are. And that we don't have to. We got another pick at the bottom of the first round. We have been able to find secondary players all throughout the draft, like because we are so good at developing and teaching and growing these young guys. I mean, every year we're seeing these guys depart in free agency. That's why they're comfortable, letting a great player like McDuffie go in that trade, because they've been able to just keep reloading. They've done it with Snead. They've done it with a bunch of these guys over the years. They just keep replenishing the secondary. They lost a safety this year as well, and Brian Cook. So they just roll them through.
On our way out, with these corners and secondary players, because it applies to exactly what we were just talking about. There's a lot of teams at need. Kansas City needs secondary help. Dallas needs secondary help, among others.
Yeah.
There's not a better, and I can't wait for draft night, and in particular, probably night 2, Friday night, when we're in the second and third round.
Yeah.
This is going to be a night
tracker
2
on this podcast.
This is crazy. I didn't realize this was such a crutch of mine, but now I'm gonna think about it every. Probably I'm gonna think about this every single time.
You probably should.
Night 2, we will have this discussion.
Now you're in your head.
4 corners.
Yeah.
Production potential, because you've got these undersized corners that were so good. D'Angelo Pond's top of that list.
Yeah.
Super undersized, incredible football player. And then you've got guys that have injury issues, played at 3 schools. Not that it's bad, and they're 6'3" and 200 pounds and 195. And you're like, well, that's what it looks like. And we're going to have that discussion on night 2.
Yeah, that's going to be night 2. We're going to see a run on those dudes. And it'll be fascinating to see. Again, they almost belong in different categories, with some of these players. Like the fact that you're sitting there and you're comparing Takario Davis to, D'Angelo Pons. Like, it's just like they look like different human beings and how they play and how they look and all those different things. But
I mean, Takario Davis is almost a head taller than D'Angelo Pons.
He's just under 6'4", I believe. So yeah, he's a freaky dude. But the thing on Pons is I ended up putting him in my top 50 on my last one. This is my last update. It'll come up, so it's the top 150. I think I ended up putting him at like 45. But every year in this process, there's like little traditions. But I've tried to do this every year where I look at the list and I go, who am I going to be sick to my stomach when they end up going in the top 50? And for some reason or another, I believe in the player, but I had him at like 52 or 53. You know what I mean? Like he was right there. And it's like, what's going to make me sick to my stomach? I did it with Jalen Hurts. That was the last one I put in my top 50.
I remember that.
Because I was like, he's just so competitive and tough. He'll figure it out somehow. Like, I just won't live with myself if I don't put him in there. So I've done it with guys every year. So he was my guy this year where I was like, I'll just hate myself if this guy ends up being the 35th pick and I have him as my 51st player. I'm going to be like, you moron. Like, you love everything about the kid, except he's just not tall.
By the way, the entire defensive philosophy and scheme was built around D'Angelo Pons.
Wow.
My conversations with Bryant Haynes were phenomenal. Bryant Haynes is one of my favorite guys to talk football with, because he just lays it on the line right before games. Big Ten championship game, it doesn't matter. He's like, this is what we're going to do, Joel. If it doesn't work, I'll tip my cap. It's the best. DJ, you know those conversations.
I love that.
You know it's authentic and it's real. And I don't want to give too much away. And since Pons is gone, I think it's fine. But everything rolled away from Pons because everything was a zone pressure, a simulated pressure away from Pons because
Mhm.
he could take up half the field.
Yeah.
And he would tell me, he was like, the kid will just not get beat. And so I just give him half the field and we'll see. And I was like, what if it's Jeremiah Smith? And he's like, well, he'll play hard.
Yeah. We'll take our shot.
We'll
Which he
take our
did,
shot.
yeah.
And he does. And so it doesn't. And so he plays that off what I would call free access, cover 3 corner into the boundary as well as anybody. He's tough. He's 5'9", but he's tough at the catch point. And the entire defense for Indiana won a national championship, was undefeated, one of the best defenses in college football. The entire scheme was built around the fact that D'Angelo Pons was on the field. I love that.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I had toyed around with some different comps, and then I was talking to a buddy with a team literally this last week as I was filling this whole thing out, and kind of bounced some of the names off of him, that I had been around, like Ladarius Webb. We talked about Avonte Maddox, just some other undersized players that we love. And he's like, DJ, he's like, we pulled it up, you can pull it up in their system going all the way back. It's like, it is a carbon copy of Aaron Glenn. Carbon copy. So I said, well, that's my comp, Aaron Glenn. And then I was like, if the draft gods could just please, the Jets have 2 second-round picks. Please let them select him. That's another one we can clip off if we get that one. Then we can have some fun with that one.
Kiara's gotten 5 shout-outs today. Catherine's gotten shout-outs. Steve's gotten shout-outs. Well, we can't get to everybody. We've got a staff of over 100.
I know, it really is.
Here on the show.
Yeah. For those of you that are watching or listening, and I know you love Joel and hold him in very high regard, it takes maybe 2 villages. I don't know if it takes a village is enough.
Oh, buddy, can't wait to be with you in Pittsburgh. Can't tell you how much I appreciate. I took up too much of your time, and you're always super gracious. You are my absolute North Star in this industry. The way that you work, your information, and the way that you treat people, the character that you have, your integrity, all of it. Super proud to call you a friend, and I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, you're probably one of my favorite guys too, man.
I knew it. Oh, there he goes. We'll see you in Pittsburgh, DJ. Have a good night, dude.
Love you, buddy.
All right, can't wait to be with DJ in Pittsburgh. That's going to be awesome. Next week, we're going to have more content for you. We're going to have a couple of episodes. I'll do my last mock draft. That'll be 3.0 right before the draft. And then after the draft, we're going to get into some more college football content and wrap up spring ball. I'm going to have my post-spring top 25. That's coming in the next few weeks. So again, we'll have a couple of episodes next week, Monday, and then right before the draft. And that 3.0 mock draft will drop next week right here on the Joel Klatt Show. If you're not a subscriber, you need to be a subscriber. Go ahead and hit that button down below. You can subscribe to the show, hit the notification button as well. You'll know when all of our content drops. And then if you haven't followed us on social media, we are wherever you are on social media. If you like TikTok, we're on TikTok. So go and follow us on social media at Joel Klatt Show. You can get all of our content in short form out there. Going to be a nice little sprint here to the 2026 NFL Draft. It should be a good one. Again, thanks to Daniel Jeremiah. Go follow him at Move the Sticks. Check everything out that he does. He's awesome. Until then, until next week, I'm Joel Klatt. Have a great week.